So our next speaker, and our own Yoast go way back. She has a ton of experience consulting major brands like Eastpak and Under Armour and helped startups like Zillow and Hungry House to get where they are today. We're very happy to introduce to you the European Search Personality of the Year in 2018. Please give a big round of applause for Aleyda Solis.
Sorry. Go. Thank you, Josie. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thanks. I am very impressed to see many faces here, despite the fact that yesterday we finished very late. Thank you, thank you. Just to cheer a little bit up today's talk, like how many of you have had to deal with a web migration ever? Please raise your hand. Okay, quite a few of you. How many of you are happy about the process? Did you enjoy it? It was good? The goal, the outcome, at least the outcome? Yes? More. Okay. How many of you have ever had to move homes, houses? Yeah? Oh, almost sounds like correlation doesn't imply causation, but more or less the same. How many of you have enjoyed the process of moving houses? Even less. That's funny. Okay. Realistically, yes. Moving websites as moving houses is pijnlijk, yeah? Pijnlijk, yeah? Pain in the ass. Not necessarily something that we will enjoy, right? There's so many things to take into consideration. It's not purely about SEO, realistically, right? You want to take all of your belongings with you. You don't want to forget anything important in the old place. You want to update your details also, to refer your mails, to refer that important people in your life and let them know that you don't live there anymore, right? You want to correctly organize also all of your belongings in the new place as soon as possible because, oh my God, it can take so much energy. And it's very, very, very similar when we are doing a web migration, right? It's like we want to move URLs. We need to 201 redirect in an effective way, also painless if possible. We need to update links and configuration in that new place where we are moving. Unfortunately, if we don't do it right, with the right planning, validation, configuration, and input from an SEO perspective, the outcome of a botch, of a bad migration, is not necessarily positive from a traffic conversion business perspective in our business. Something similar happens when we move houses also, and we then remember that we haven't correctly labeled the boxes and we don't know where the toilet paper is anymore. Yeah, that can bother a little bit. However, I have to say that a botch web migration consequences are rather worse, right? And sadly, it seems that this is more common than even moving houses in an incorrect way or in a bad way, right? And the consequences can definitely be even worse. I love that Systrix, they publish every year who are the winners and losers of their top markets, right? So they publish for the UK, also from Spain, also from France, Italy, I think. And in every single case, it's so funny to see that there's always a section of web migrations gone wrong, always. And these are always among those websites that suffer the worst traffic loss. So it can be painful. Realistically, though, as with moving houses, it can be exciting if you are moving to a better place, right? If the change is for the better, and realistically, it should be. It can provide you the opportunity to move to a bigger place with a bigger room, where you will have much more space to put your clothes. It can give you also the opportunity to reorganize what you used to have in a very bad condition in the past. And likewise, with a good web migration, if you take SEO into consideration right from the start, it can provide you the same opportunities. If you can take, don't worry, Gerald, you can, don't worry at all, you can. Really? Likewise. It can give you the best opportunity to reorganize everything, to put in order what you couldn't, or what you didn't, realistically, what you didn't want it to touch because it was too risky and it was going very, more or less well, and you didn't know if it was going to be worthy to change those URLs, to change that configuration, and now you have the chance to do it, right? It's now or never to make the most out of the opportunity. Funnily enough, from what I have seen in the past, most of the challenges in web migrations happen even before the start of the web migration. Half of them have to do with planning and project management, a lack even of validation and questioning about the final motivation, the goal, what you are looking to achieve, if it is really necessary to do a migration in the first place, right? And if so, if there are enough resources, enough flexibility to support it in a positive way. And then, of course, the technical type of configurations that you will need to update, to change, to configure in the new place, and make sure that you follow for the old URLs to move correctly to the new place, right? And all this can be intensified, can get even worse for big websites, for websites that have millions of URLs. It can get quite complex to manage, unfortunately. So I am not Marie Kondo, I have to say. There's a reason why I didn't actually take real photos from my own place or when I have moved a couple of years ago from houses, because it doesn't necessarily look like this. But what I am able to share with you today is to try to apply a little bit of the same principles to make the most out of our web migrations, to improve what we have, to reorganize in the best possible way, and to grow, to take the opportunity to grow our SEO status, our visibility, our traffic, and help achieve that necessary business goal in the first place, right? So we should start by identifying what is really the goal, what we want to achieve, the scope of the migration, in order to be able to really allocate resources accordingly, to gain support for the web migration. And there are many types of migrations, realistically. Not all web migrations are the same. In fact, a few of them, I don't know if they should be really called web migrations, right? Like from redesigns to HTTPS switches, rebrandings, web consolidation. So if they require a stronger or a bigger move from one domain to another, change of URL, change of design, change of content. If there's so many different changes happening at the same time, it can get really, really complex, much more complex, like with a rebranding or a web consolidation, for example. In all the cases, if it is only, for example, a backend change, or even a redesign, but a redesign that, well, mostly the change will be the CSS and the decorative elements, and you will change realistically, not the URLs, not the content, it will be the same. It doesn't need necessarily to be so painful. So not all web migrations are the same, and the support that they will require will be different based on the amount of move that they will take, right? And also your SEO focus will change based on this. So if it is only a redesign, of course you should take care of the crawlability, the indexability of what you already have there. If it is moving to an HTTPS version, it is within the same domain, but of course you want to make sure that you are 201 redirecting correctly to the new relevant canonical original versions that are indexable. If it is a rebranding, a web consolidation, well, it requires a little bit of more support and focus on making sure that you keep the relevance of that former content, to keep ranking and refer correctly to these new pages versions, to make sure that they keep ranking for these same old queries for which they used to rank, right? And given all this, is that we should then ask, is it really necessary? Is the web migration actually going to help to achieve the goal? Because you can see that it's not necessarily trivial, right? It's not trivial work, the one that we need to do, right? So are there any other ways to achieve the same goal without having to move? Right? What would you need to move and where? It's important to have it completely clear, like, yeah, this is going to be the new location, the new URL structure, and we can do changes in both, and we have all the flexibility that we need in both. Are there resources and flexibility to do the actual move, technical and content-wise? And at the end of the day, is it going to be really profitable, given all of the effort that it will require, not only from you, but from many other stakeholders and departments, right? In some cases, it's necessary. In some cases, it's even profitable. I have seen in many occasions scenarios like this one, right? Brands, companies that started targeting internationally with so many different CCTLDs, one for each country. They ended up having like 50 CCTLDs. They don't know how. They don't know why they actually selected to target international with specific CCTLDs. Well, they heard that that was the best ideal configuration to give the most links of geolocation, right? But then they realized that they had all of these domains to maintain and was not cost effective for them. So at some point they say, like, why don't we consolidate? And we reuse our GTLD along subdirectories that we will geolocate toward each specific country. And like this, they will be also able to facilitate the management into only maintaining a single domain, and then also allow to consolidate all of the authority and popularity into a single property. That's much more easier, right? And it can be quite positive. There are other scenarios, though, that don't have to do with SEO or purely by SEO, but it also requires a little bit sometimes because of business reasons, branding reasons, like from Yoast to Marike, yeah, right? Marike.com? Hashtag MarikeCon. I was like, no, oh my God. Sometimes it is required, right? Like, why not? So after assessing all of this, is that we are going to agree and ensure that we have enough resources, that it really makes sense, that we have everybody's support. And I wish I could tell you that it will go like this. The ideal, this is what I dream about every night as an SEO, right? As an SEO consultant, especially an external one as I am. Sadly, it might be a little bit not realistic. But once that you have obtained it, it's time to start. So let's do that move, right? That rebranding, how we will do it. The first thing is to avoid leaving anything out in the old location, right? We don't want to leave out and forget our belongings. Any important, especially important page that have an important role in a customer journey, in a conversion journey, to actually be able to operate and provide what we need to our customers, right? So we need to specify all of those URLs that are within the scope of the migration. This is critical. And of course, we want to crawl all of the potentially affected URL from the migration and gather all of their metrics, because it will be also as important to put them in context, to identify which are these really top 20 URLs, these top 10% of URLs that drive mostly like 90% of the traffic, and prioritize those in any case. For some reason, we cannot take care of all of them, right? So it's important to gather all of this information. And realistically, there are so many, I love this, to see that there are so many different types of crawlers. And these are like the single crawlers, or there are even like many more crawlers, like every tool nowadays have a SEMrush, Moz, also a built-in crawler within, so there's no excuse at this point to not crawl effectively, whatever, independently of the type of website. There is an option for that. That is also very cost-effective. And we need to analyze each page current SEO configuration and status, and we should be able to understand how well optimized they are right now. On one hand, to identify what we will need to keep, and we will important to keep in the new version, in the new design, and what we should be looking to improve, to take that opportunity to improve what we already have, right? And for this, when we do the crawl, ideally, we should be able to gather as as many URL data as possible so we can integrate, and again, many of these tools already provide this functionality to integrate Google Analytics, Google Search Console, with our XML sitemaps, with log files, with backlink data. We should be able to gather all this and crawl up these URLs in order to avoid losing anything meaningful. We will be able like this to identify orphan pages, pages that somehow they were campaign pages in a, not so known subdomain, but it's bringing traffic somehow. And now is the opportunity to actually integrate that content in your website, in your new website structure, right? But it's important to identify the existence of that URL first. And this is how we are going to do it. We should do the same not only for pages, but also for images, for any type of resources. And yes, we will tend to look and end up finding like a lot of errors out there, especially from the log files, like somebody like linked you in an erroneous way. That URL never existed, but somehow it's there, right? So it's important that maybe we will see that there will be some rules that we will want to set. We won't necessarily bring those to the new locations. Remember, we want to take the opportunity to prune a little bit, but it's also important to identify those, even if they are a little bit of a disaster, right? This is actually disaster, right? They didn't actually lie to me. It's like, no, it's not disaster, it's another thing. Like, don't tell me, please. Anyway, this is a disaster, like this. So now is the time that when we have all of the URLs, to give context to them, to actually see which are the real meaningful pages that we need to bring, or make sure that we bring to maximize the results and to make sure that we accomplish the desired results. And we should try to obtain all the activity metrics for these URLs. Our traffic, the links going to them, the rankings that they're gathering. Again, a lot of the SEO crawlers nowadays, they provide this type of integration. And then you can put your pages in context like this, right? You have all the URLs that you have identified. You have their SEO configuration, the technical one, the HTTP status, the canonicalization, the relevance-related information, the metadata, title, descriptions. You have link information, external links, so you also have the information regarding their popularity, which are the ones like that are really being referred externally, their traffic, and the rank queries, which is also important to map. Because remember that we want to keep the relevance of these pages in the new location. Which of these actually spark joy based on those metrics? Which are the ones that are really game-changing for your business? Which are the ones really attracting conversions, traffic, rankings, links? Based on that, we can set rules. Because realistically, it won't be worth it to migrate everything. There would be, again, error pages that we didn't even realize that they existed somehow, right? So based on that, we will be able to set rules. Like, they were error URLs. They never actually existed. They were like typos or whatever. Like, leave them out. We don't need to tag them to the new location. Like, did they exist, but they were not indexable? Maybe they were internal search results that somehow somebody linked at some point. We don't necessarily want, again, to create them or take any effort to optimize for them because they are not indexable, right? So we can 301 redirect to the parent category. Or this is actually a very important page targeting a category, a subcategory, a product, featuring important information for your customer. So yes, and this is indexable, and this is bringing traffic or rankings or links or all of this together. So of course, this is something that you want 301 redirect to its own new version in the new location specifically, right? So again, this is a great chance to reorganize what you got, all that little mess that you found before, and for those meaningful pages to make sure that they are as optimized as possible. So imagine, YoastCon won't be YoastCon anymore. It will be MariqueCon, right? So you will want to 301 redirect from YoastCon to MariqueCon, and you want to make sure that MariqueCon still ranks for best SEO conference ever, right? You want to keep the relevance of the new page. Somehow you identified that the content is already very well optimized and targeting these transactional queries, but there are some issues that can be improved. So it's important that you identify that the old version of the page of YoastCon has these issues, so you don't replicate those. You bring the good part, but you don't bring the bad part over MaricaCon. So it's an important opportunity to optimize the new pages locations, the new versions of your every single page, especially those meaningful pages, right? So like this, you will be able to map what you got before and what you will get now, and hopefully it will be at least as good as before, if not better. And then, of course, since in this particular case, there's a change of brand, right? Realistically, there will be some terms for which you won't be relevant anymore. And at some point, these old branded queries, especially the branded terms, they won't be searched anymore because you will be known now as your new brand. But for a while, you will need, and it will be important that you keep some content targeting these old branded queries in the case of rebranding scenarios, right? So even if we will 301 redirect YoastCon to MaricaCon, we want to create what I call usual bridge pages, right? These are pages that will serve as a bridge for our old branded rankings. Those queries that are not our top priority now, but they were important at that point, and we still want to keep targeting and bringing and referring to our new pages in an indirect way, right? So you will still have a landing page called YoastCon in the new marica.com domain explaining how YoastCon is now MaricaCon. And it will still rank for those old queries. And it will be something like this, realistically, right? Like we used to rank, all those pages used to rank for transactional queries and all branded queries too. Now the MaricaCon will rank for transactional queries and new branded queries. But for the all branded queries, what we will have, this set of pages targeting towards the all branded ones. And like this, we'll be able to fulfill and still target and not lose unnecessary, still meaningful visibility and traffic of customers still searching for us in this old way. And we can replicate this again and again and again as necessary, right? But if we change many product names, like we can do this in whatever case. Something important though, and this is important, right? In this case, the change, the rebranding was very extreme from Yoast to Marica. Imagine if the rebranding would have been not from Yoast to Marica, but now it is called Yoast and Marica, right? In that particular scenario, I have to say, that should be another factor to take into consideration. Is it really necessary to do a whole migration and to do all of these required changes? You can see that it's not trivial, right? These many changes, not only of URLs, but the domain, to include an extra term in it? Maybe not, right? Or maybe not everything at the same time, but little by little. So again, there's no rule of thumb here. It will depend a lot on the variation, on the specific scenario of the specific goal. Maybe the rebranding needs to happen now, yes or yes, because of course Marica is now the CEO and she wants that the company is called like her now. She deserves it. Maybe. Yeah, so it's important that we take those factors also into consideration. But in the past, this is funny, I have had clients that have renamed specific products, and the old products was called, let's say, I don't know, product X, and now it's called product XS. And I was like, is it really necessary that we change the URL just to add that last S at the end of the URL? Not really. We can change the content, which can change the information of the page accordingly, but it's not really that necessary to change the whole URL, you know, like to do the migration just because of that extra element in it. So again, it's important that we take this with a grain of salt and we assess and validate our specific scenario, right? And that we have all this, it's time to prepare and test the migration in a closed scenario before going for it. And it should be possible to create this stage environment where we set the old and the new website versions, and that is closed, of course, for any external crawling access, etc., but that we can crawl it ourselves with our own tools to validate that it is behaving as we expected, right? So we should go through all of the affected pages and revise that they have been updated based on our previous rules. We should list crawl these old URLs on the stage and in our environment, but just do a list crawl of these old URLs and check if the redirects rules are the correct one. If they are 301 redirecting where we mapped in the past, each one of them based on their importance again. And these are the typical errors, right? Realistically, even if it should be very, very clear, it's like 301 permanent redirect from here to there. It's like, no, there are always, unfortunately, double redirects or non-301 redirects, sometimes even temporary redirects, or they redirect to a page that is not the correct one, or that is not well canonicalized, that is not indexable. So it's important that we look for redirect change, redirect loops, redirects to non-relevant pages at this point, and we make sure that to fix those before the actual migration. And we do the same, an audit to the new website too, in the test environment. Are these new pages that we took the care to improve from their current status actually implemented as we specified in the past? Yes or no? Are they actually configured in a way that they will be able to rank when we launch them? The HTTP status, the canonicalization, internal linking, the content indexability, the content relevance also. And if everything is working as expected, then we will be able then to launch. And I love that even Yoast, like I love to see this resource because I love it because it's completely doable by any website. Because there are even plugins for it, and they also show how to do it in the code if we want. If you see that the migration is going to take a little bit too long, and you don't want that the Googlebot comes in the meantime and end up crawling your website and thinking that, oh my God, they are showing all of these error pages, what is going on, and they end up indexing an erroneous version, not yet ready version of your new migrated website, you can show a 503 HTTP status in the meantime, a maintenance status. And they will come back in a bit after instead of crawling your content like that. And usually it's not necessary, but just in case, if you see that it will be taking too long. And then, of course, we should do the same validation again. We should list crawl all of the old URLs, check again that they are following the right rules that we had set. Somehow, and you tell me, Aleyda, is it really necessary? It's like too many crawls, isn't it? Yes, but somehow this does happen. Even if you have tested it well in the stage environment, even if you have validated that everything is correctly mapped and redirecting there, then when it is launched, it is a 302 redirect going to a 404 HTTP status page. You want to be able to catch this on time. And then if at some point you identify that there are real issues with your redirect configuration, you should start fixing ASAP those really important pages. If for some reason you cannot apply just rules to all of your URLs at the same time, and it's like, oh my God, I don't have so many resources, you should start with those that are actually bringing the important value, the traffic, the conversions, the rankings, the links. And then, of course, crawl again, do the audit to your actual new location. Is it as well optimized as you specify? Are these pages actually canonicalizing to the new URL version? Sometimes it happens that the canonical tags keep pointing to the stage URLs. Don't ask me why. Sometimes it happens. So you want to double check that the links are going correctly to the new URLs locations, that are correctly configured, that these pages are now showing the correct information, the refresh information. If it is a HTTPS migration or switch, then it's important also to show that these URLs are actually not calling anything that is not secure, showing a mixed content type of error there. This is also something to look for. And of course, it's also important to set the Google Analytics, the Google Search Console for these new pages. And if you had some configuration in the old Google Search Console, that you bring those also to the new ones. Geolocation, subdirectories, parameters handling through the Google Search Console, disavow files that at some point you had in the old domain, you bring those also to the new Google Search Console. And once that you have fixed all of these issues, is that you are actually going to request a recrawl from Google. And you are going to send the XML sitemaps also to be recrawled. Soon enough, based on yesterday's announcement, this will be automatic with Yoast too, so this one less step, quite cool. And for full domain migrations, Google give us this option, this change of address feature in the Google Search Console. However, this is only supported when we move from full domains, like from a subdomain to a complete new domain. This doesn't support protocol switches, doesn't support subdirects or subdomains to subdomains, at least not yet. I am like crossing my fingers because unfortunately, I don't know if you noticed, one of the features that they announced last week that they are not going to be kept in the new Google Search Console is the one of the sets view. So you actually can aggregate the performance activity view, the report view of different domains, different properties. And this is the way I did until now to check that the visibility of the old domain when switched to the new one wasn't lost, that it was the same, that you couldn't notice any difference. And hopefully, it started to go up, right? That won't be, and that is the reason why I'm not even mentioning it anymore, because sadly, this is one of the features that will be lost in the new Google Search Console. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers. They haven't said anything about this one in particular, but I think it's something really useful, even if we are not doing migrations every day, but it's actually something very, very useful that hopefully there will be even more flexibility around this for other type of more granular migrations. And after we have moved our website, it's time to monitor that everything is going well. And remember, as with everything in SEO, like maybe they have taken all of our recommendations into consideration, but still somehow there are opportunities that we have missed at the beginning, right? So it's important to monitor to see if everything is going as we expected, and if not, to take appropriate action. So we should start tracking, monitoring the old versus the new websites for our most important queries. Yes, we are going to use Google Search Console, other data sources, external competitive tools out there, but we want to make sure to track our own most important queries too. We should set a web monitoring system like Little Warden or Content King too. Why? Because we will crawl or input a list of URLs of our old website and the new one, and they will tell us if they change their status. If for somehow someone changes something after a week of the migration and all 301 redirects disappear. And they start showing a 200 OK HTTP status and start to get indexed back again. And you don't know what happened. So these tools will always alert you when something changes from technical or content configuration of these pages. So it's always a good practice to at least do those top URLs that you migrated, and the top ones of your new locations are always monitored. And then you should be able to see this in the old versus the new Google Search Console. How the pages of the old version are not in the index anymore, and the new ones start to be shown. Little by little, right? Unfortunately, this doesn't happen in one day. We'll need to be monitoring and through a few weeks that this happens correctly and that we regain the same level than before. And again, I have to say that in this other case, I love the more granular features and actionable features that the new Google Search Console give us, because they will tell us if for some reason some of the old URLs that we migrated that were important are not taken into consideration in their new version, and there is a crawl anomaly, if there's a problem with them. So we can go and check the reasons for them, see how Google is seeing them, double verifying, double validating in a much more granular way. And then, of course, monitor and compare the drop of visibility in the old website and the increase of it in the new one. And check if for some reason there are some important terms, queries for us, products, transactional, category, important category terms, that, yeah, we will have regained in general the visibility, but somehow my top 10 queries from the past are not necessarily the same now anymore, and maybe the new ones are not as attractive for you business-wise, right? So you want to also go granular if you have the resources, hopefully, to identify this and do this mapping, right? Like, are the keywords being re-ranked again? Are they being re-ranked with the right pages too, or not? The best way to do this, and we are going to see, is to also do your own groups of keywords with your own tool. Like, for example, here I am doing it with SEO Monitor. Do my own groups based on the categories, subcategories, personas, or product types, and monitor which are the ones that have regained their old rankings and which are not completely, and target and see the problem with those that are not. And verify again if there are inconsistencies, desktop versus mobile too, now that we have switched to a mobile-first index across many, many, many properties. This is important. And give the context to all this. The visibility that we track, that we monitor, shouldn't be only for our own old and new domains, but also to monitor their status, their visibility, their share of visibility versus our competitors, to see if we have lost the share and the status that we have in our industry or not, hopefully, right? So hopefully you will be able to see the old domain to go down completely and the new one to regain and even increase what the old one had. And then we want to complete and complement in case we have missed anything with data with, for example, SEMrush, Ahrefs, Systrix, search metrics. They will provide us the visibility for all the queries that they identify, right? So this is the funny thing. You might find at some point, like in this case, right, oh, the new domain hasn't regained completely all the top rankings for all of the queries, right? There are some that haven't switched completely, but then we realize that these are pages that we actually even took the care to properly redirect to a new version because they were completely non-meaningful for us, business-wise, right? So it's important to not let us, and again, this is tricky because sometimes we need to educate our clients, right? To not allow that these tools or the visibility trends of these tools will lose our minds over them. It's important to take them as metrics, to monitor, to identify if potentially there was something important left. But in many, many, many cases, in these migrations that they look botched in Systrix or in SEMrush or in search metrics, realistically, the pieces that have been left out or the ones that have lost the visibility, we go and take a look, and these were garbage traffic, right? And these were actually pages that were on purpose left out because that traffic didn't convert it, wasn't important from a business perspective, and they were only damaging the site quality overall. But we want to double check them, of course, just in case. And of course, all this visibility doesn't worth anything if it doesn't actually bring business to our website. So that increase should be also connected with the increase of traffic, with the increase of conversions, and so many tools nowadays. They provide the integration from our own rankings with Google Analytics, and if we have set the e-commerce settings or the goal settings, we should be able to see the impact, the actual impacts on our own business. And hopefully, the idea here is that we regain what we had, and after a bit of extra time, we don't only regain, but we actually increase, we improve. We have taken the opportunity to actually achieve much more of what we had. On one hand, by tackling these common issues, there might be a little bit of extra problems with, these are the ones that again and again you will see happening, unfortunately, while taking the opportunity to eliminate those elements that didn't spark joy in the first place. Amazing. Amazing opportunity to do all these structural changes that you were afraid to ask for in the past, right? While also achieving those business goals, right? Amazing. Win, 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 win. If for some reason you tell me, Aleyda, this is amazing, but honestly, I have so many clients that have come to me after the migration actually happened and say, oh, I forgot to tell you, I forgot to ask you, what do I do? Don't worry, I have you covered. There are only 5 minutes left, and of course I wanted to leave enough time for Q&A and a little bit of, just to relax. So didn't include this part, but I got you covered anyway. You can watch the latest Scrolling Mondays, which is this video series that I started with very actionable SEO advice. It's mainly me, screen sharing, showing how to do something. And in the last episode from the last Monday, I show you what to do, what are the validations to be made if a web migration is done and SEO is not taken into consideration, so how you can do to regain that traffic, right? It's a little bit of forensic SEO, I have to say, but it's even not necessarily that painful as with all this whole process at the end of the day, right? Shouldn't be. In any case, you should now be able to move, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think migration is always a daunting process, and I think you've just shown us a roadmap to do that, so thank you for that. We have like 5 minutes for questions. I'm sure there must be any. Yeah. Please raise your hand if you want to, and stand up if you ask the question and talking to the black dot, because there were people holding the mic upside down yesterday. That'll work. Questions?
All right, has one.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the example of the...
Could you stand up, Ron?
Oh, sure. I love the example of the move from .com.br to .com, and you were showing sort of the meteoric rise in traffic over time, which was really cool. I'm curious, do you always or almost always recommend that if you have a large number of these CCTLDs that you go and migrate to .com/subfolder?
To start, actually, like if it is possible, right? If you have a choice when you are just starting, even without migrating, that you start with .com directly. If you, for example, if you are targeting the US, the Netherlands, Spain, France, many other countries, honestly, the most cost-effective way to do it without going into so much investment and so many different independent entities and properties out there, and to manage it much more easily with a single CMS and everything, is to, create subdirectories, and each single subdirectory should be registered independently through the Google Search Console, and geolocated through the Google Search Console there, and then, of course, set hreflang annotations to give those extra signals. Because at the end of the day, realistically, I mean, for sure, the best possible signal of geolocalization is to have CCTLDs. That is for sure, right? However, at this point, I will say that, at least from an SEO signal perspective, you can provide as much
like the domain authorities.
with the subdirectory geolocation and hreflang, and with the advantage of having all of your domain authority in a single property like this and consolidated and be able to be much more competitive right from the start in a new market. Right?
It's just not worth it anymore to have these CCTLDs.
I will say that it is worthy if, at some point, maybe after you have started in the market, if you see that all of your competitors in that market are using CCTLDs, and the ones using CCTLDs are somehow the ones outranking you, and this is the one single factor. It's not links, it's not content, it's not relevance. This is the one single factor because, of course, like Google changed their algo, and their algo is a little bit different depending on the country and also in the industry, realistically. So maybe there are some specific scenarios where it would be worthy, but in most cases, I find that is not the case. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's really. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have time for one last question. Yep.
Hello. Thanks for the talk.
Could you stand up, please? Could you stand up?
Oh.
Thank you very much.
How long should we keep the redirects in place? Because sometimes we can have like 1,000 redirects, and that's a bit much, and maybe for the server. So.
Sorry, but forever. I mean, honestly, forever. But don't hate me, like hate the search engines. No, honestly, no, really. Take a look. How much time does it take to Google, any search engine for that matter, to stop showing any URLs from the old domain that you have redirected even 2 years ago or something, right? I will say that if it is possible, leave it there in place until you see that there's no signal, no metric shown after 5 years or something like that, right? But realistically, realistically, it's important to keep them there just as much as possible that you can, that it is feasible to do it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you all, and thank you, Aleyda.
Thank you very much, and I really like the opportunity. Hopefully I will be invited again next year at MaricaCon. Let's see. Thank you.